Here we are on the front of our Keystone Bullet. We're going to do a technical tutorial or a walkthrough like a technician would do on the data delivery, going over the components on your unit, how to use them, a few tips along the way. Yours may vary with the name brand component that's on here. You may have a power jack instead of a manual jack, stuff like that. You can find information on those components and more in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section on the Great American RV YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff to our channel to help support what we do for you guys. So we're going to start in the front here. Of course, we have that manual ton jack. It is easily upgraded to a power ton jack if you want. 3 bolts, drop it in, run a wire over to your battery, and that's it. You're also going to have your 7-way plug here in the front. That 7-way plug is going to transfer all your lights from your towing vehicle over to the trailer. We're also going to have a battery charge line in here that's going to pull off the alternator of the vehicle to charge your battery when it's running. Lastly, we're going to have our brake control wire that pulls off of the brake controller, and it senses when you're hitting the brakes, it's going to activate the brakes on your trailer. Now, speaking of brakes, you're also going to have your breakaway cable. Your breakaway cable should be looped in or latched onto your receiver hitch itself where you hook your chains up. Never to the chains themselves or the hitch that's sticking out with the ball, any of that. It should be attached to the vehicle. That way, if something fails with the hitch and the chains and this trailer separates from the vehicle, this cable will pull, and it will pull the pin out of that breakaway box. That breakaway box then activates the brakes on our trailer and brings it to a safe stop. Now, this can only happen if we have a good solid 12-volt battery in there. If it's not charged up enough, those brakes will not activate, so it's important to maintain our battery regularly. Last thing we need to make sure we do is have that pin inserted into that box at all times. Otherwise, it will have your brakes activated. Behind all of that is our dual propane tanks right here. We also have a dual propane regulator to operate them. That dual propane regulator is going to have a selector switch on it. You're going to want to have both of your tanks on. You choose which tank you want to be your primary, turn that selector switch over to that one, and it's going to pull out of that tank only until it runs dry. When it runs dry, you generally get a red indicator on the regulator, and it will automatically start pulling off of that secondary tank, so you're not losing propane in the middle of cooking or showering or anything like that. Now you can go over to that selector switch, swap to that second tank, and that will now be your primary. You can get your other one refilled or replaced. Behind all of that is our battery storage center where we can go ahead and put a couple batteries in. We're also going to have our battery disconnect back here. Battery disconnect is important whenever we are storing our unit. If we're storing it unplugged, we want to leave that battery disconnect off so it's not pulling voltage off of that battery. You have some juice left whenever you go to pick that unit back up. Now, if you're storing it plugged in or using your camper, anything of that nature, anytime you have it plugged in, you want that battery disconnect on. It literally disconnects the battery off of your system so you can save voltage and stuff won't be pulling off of it at the time. You're also going to find a couple of resettable, you're also going to find a couple of automatic resettable 12-volt breakers back here. That means that if they are amping out, they're going to get hot, they're automatically going to reset on their own in the event that something is causing a problem like your slide outs or something like that. So in the event that you have that issue, let it sit for a second, see if you hear it click and reset, and try that slide out again. We have more videos that go over our slide outs. Here on the driver's side of your unit, you have pass-through storage access right here. You're also going to have pre-wiring for your charge controller if you want to upgrade with a solar system. The wiring is already ran. You're also pre-wired for an inverter. An inverter changes 12 volts to 110 to run small appliances. In the event you don't have a 110 hookup or 220 hookup at wherever you're at, you're dry camping, boondocking, something like that, you can use that inverter system to run some of your 110 stuff. Beside it, we have our cable hookup right here. This is if you have part cable, you run that over to there. That'll go out to all your TVs. Below that, we have our fresh water connection and our city water connection. Now, fresh water, we pull that cap off, we take a water hose, we stick it in there, and we can go ahead and fill it up. This is for our onboard fresh tank. We would fill that up and use that once again if we are boondocking or something like that. We kick on our water pump, and that will provide water to all of our fixtures on the interior of our unit. Now, there is a way to drain that water. We'll find that under our unit, that blue line sticking out. We'll go over the location of that shortly. and we want to drain that water out. If it becomes stagnant, anything like that, drain it out if we're not using it so it doesn't become stagnant. Keep in mind also, the more water you put in your unit, the more weight you're adding to your unit. So only put what you may think you need, maybe a little bit more, and so on. Now, if we do have that city water connection at the campsite where we're going, we'll take that water hose, hook it up to our city water connection right here, turn it on. That'll supply water to all of our fixtures and won't have the need for the onboard water storage. Next to that is our tankless water heater by Gerard, giving you endless hot water. We'll go over the operation of that on the inside. It does need 12 volts and propane to operate. The location for your freshwater drain is going to be right in front of your front stabilizer jacks, that blue line sticking out with the valve. We're going to notice on our slide out, we do have cables on the side that identifies it as a cable slide. We have a great video that helps you out with cable slides in the event that it is not working. You can refer to our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. Under our slide out, you'll see our gray water port. That is a second tank in there, and we'll go over a little bit more information about our gray tanks in the rear when we get to our main sewage port. All right, so on the rear of our unit, we talked about our slide out. We're past that. We have our black tank flush up here on the top. That's where we'd hook a water hose up to flush out our black tank when we dump. So let's go over our operation of our dump. We have that other gray tank port right there. We have a gray tank here as well as a black tank here with our two valves underneath. Now let's talk about what those are. Our gray tank is generally our sink water and our shower water. So fairly clean water. If you have a sewer hose hooked up to here and at a port at the campsite, we can go ahead and leave that gray open all the time. That way we can just drain it out as we use it. We don't have to keep coming out of here and open it up after we take several showers. Now our black tank, however, is our sewage water. We have to keep water in that black tank, otherwise the solids that we put in there from our toilet are going to dry up and cause what they call a poop pyramid or just dry tank, right? We don't want to have to deal with that mess, so always keep water in that black tank, always keep the valve closed until we are ready to dump. Now the dump process is we'll come over here, we'll pull that black tank handle and we'll flush out that tank and let it empty out. During that process, we hook our water hose up to our black tank flush right here. That's going to lead to a jet port on the other side of our tank. We kick the water on and it helps push some of that debris and solids and everything down to the valve on our tank so it can drain out. When we're satisfied with flushing our unit, we go ahead, shut that water off, we close the valve, and we're ready to go. And then we go on the inside, we hold down the pedal on our toilet and we add several gallons of fresh clean water in there and then add our chemicals. You still probably are going to have a little bit of solids and toilet paper that get stuck to the walls. As you drive down the road, that stuff will get knocked down and those chemicals will help degrade whatever might be left in there, help keeping it smell nice. Now there are some other pro tips as far as flushing your tank. You can find that in the HAPS Helpful Hacks section on how to go through that. This is how the manual says to do it. And like I said, we got some pro tips on how to do it too. On the back of our unit, we are prepped for that Keystone camera ready system. That means the power is already ran if you want to upgrade and add a backup camera on your unit so you can see behind you while you're backing up or traveling down the road. We're also going to have a sewer hose port right here. We can unscrew that cap, put our sewer hose in there for storage. And on this unit, we have our 50 amp service. That is a twist lock plug. We put it in, turn it to the right to lock it in. We'll also have a little ring on there we want to tighten up so that plug can't just pop out. Kids run around tripping on wires, so on and so forth. It won't unplug it out of your unit. We want to make sure that we plug in this end first and then plug in at our shore power, reduce any arcing or sparking whenever we plug that in. Also want to make sure our AC systems are off so we don't cause any surges to that AC. Now we don't have factory supplied access on this unit to our roof, so meaning we don't have a factory ladder, but we do have obviously a walkable roof and the wall is prepped if you want to add a ladder. Regardless, we need to find a way to gain access to our roof, so whether it's an A-frame ladder, adding a factory ladder on there, whatever the case, we need to gain access to our roof. It's very important because in your manual it says every 60 to 90 days you need to check your sealant. That includes all of your roof sealant, your trim sealant around your lights, windows, so on and so forth, to look for any cracking, peeling, or deterioration of that sealant. We want to clean it, reseal over it. We'll also want to wash that roof at least twice a year, and we'll also want to inspect the rubber after trips to make sure no low-lying tree limbs poked any holes in it. These are very important points, and we want to make sure we maintain our unit properly. It's the #1 most neglected thing when people buy campers is taking care of your sealant and making sure there's no water leaks. Whether you keep it under a cover or not, you need to check your sealant every 60 to 90 days. Manufacturers after the first 90 days generally aren't going to participate in any water leaks if the unit is not maintained. All right, passenger side, we have our front storage compartment access right here just inside on the wall there. We have 2 switches. That is for our electric stabilizer jacks here in the front and the rear. Now the way we want to use those is they are stabilizers only, not leveling systems, so we don't want to use it to try to level out our unit. They are not weight bearing for this kind of weight. They're to put on the ground and stabilize your unit, add a little bit of weight to them. We level our unit by using stacker blocks. We can purchase at any one of our camping stores, stack them up, level our unit from left to right as we're backing up. We put them under our tires and then use our tongue jack to level it from front to back. Then we put our stabilizers down. If you put too much weight on them, bend them, break them, strip the motor out, anything like that, manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of damage because that's not how we're supposed to use them. Now, once again, they are 12 volt operated. If you run to an issue with them, want to disconnect those 12 volts, there's an override on the other side where we stick a jack handle into, and we can manually crank those jacks up or down to get us out of a jam. All right, talking about our awnings, they are 12 volt powered as well as our awning lights. Need battery power once again to operate these. We'll flip a switch, run them out. They are mainly a sunshade. It can protect us from a little rain. When it does rain, or even in general, we want to go ahead and tilt it because we may get dew on our awning, we may get AC runoff from our condensation up there, get on our awning. We want to make sure that water doesn't pool up there. So in order to do that, we have 2 little pins right here. We click those pins in, and then we can adjust our arm and pitch it down. So we want one side leaning, whether it be the front or the back. Both awning arms work the same way. Now, once it does that, you're pretty well good. You want to go ahead and straighten your awning back up whenever you roll it back in for storage. Biggest thing we need to remember, if you're leaving your campsite for an extended period of time, they got a bad storm rolling in, high winds, anything like that, roll your awning in. It will become a parachute. It will collapse even if it's pitched with enough rain. All those things, we want to make sure that we are taking care of it. We don't end up with that insurance claim. Take my advice, roll it in whenever you're not using it for sure. Moving down our unit, under our awning, we'll see a vent over here. This is for our range hood over our 3-burner stove. We want to make sure that we have these tabs open on the outside so that air can actually ventilate out when we use it. We can close those tabs when we store our unit, keeping insects from building any nests. Of course, we have our TV backer mounting location right there, our outside cable antenna hookup for our TV, as well as our 110 outlet. The 110 outlet is GFCI protected. We'll talk a little bit more about GFCI when we get to the main one on the inside in the event that these aren't operating. Here we have the exhaust for our Suburban furnace. It's going to be gas operated, and of course it will need 12 volts to work. Go over the operation of that when we get to the inside. Down here we're also going to see a red and blue line sticking out. That red and blue line is your low point drains for your unit. We would use these when we winterize our unit, want to put antifreeze in it, or just drain the water out of our systems. We would go there. You can find more winterization tips in your owner's manual, as well as a video on Hap's Helpful Hacks. On the rear of our unit, more outdoor storage right here, and we also have another set of 12 volt stabilizer jacks. Push of a button, we can run those down and stabilize our unit. On our entry door, we will find some resistance on those hinges. That is because we have friction controlled hinges on there. Keep that door from being slammed by the wind or kids, whatever the case may be. Of course, we have our entry steps. We can go ahead and fold them up, 1, 2, and then 3 to put them in. We want to make sure we are lubricating all the hinge points on there. I suggest silicone spray, not necessarily WD-40. WD-40 attracts dust, lets it stick to it. And then we also want to make sure, keep an eye out for any rust on here and sand that down and paint it. Keep that stuff from chipping up on your unit. All right, when we walk into our unit at the entry door, we have our control center right here. It is going to be a generic panel, so you'll see multiple tanks that you may not have on your unit. And if we push on those buttons right there, this bar right here is going to light up and let us know the value of those tanks. We have our battery, our fresh tank, our black tanks, and our gray tanks there. Our battery, obviously that's that 12 volt battery in the front. Our fresh tank is going to be that onboard water storage, and of course our black and gray tanks. Now here we have our 12 volt water pump that's going to pull from that fresh tank right there and supply water to our fixtures. If we do have a city water connection, we can leave that off. We need to understand this is an on-demand pump, so if we turn our water on, we're going to hear that pump vibrating in there, and that's perfectly fine. When we shut our water off a couple seconds after that, that pump should shut off. If we hear that pump continuously running and we know that we have all of our fixtures off, we want to double check and make sure that our fresh tank isn't empty. If it is, shut that water pump off so it doesn't burn it up. And if that's not the case, we want to check and see if we don't have any leaks in our system. That water is continuously running out. That's why that pump is running. So investigate that as well. We have our porch lights, which is our outside awning light, and our ceiling lights for our interior. We also have our slide room in and out and our awning in and out. All of this stuff is all 12 volt operated, so you would need battery power to operate it. We'll show you where the 12 volt fuses are here shortly. Not too much to go over in our bedroom. Of course, we have our mount for our TV, a cable antenna spot for our hookup for that TV, as well as a 110 outlet. We have our second AC. We have one in the front and one in our living room area. These are Furrion ACs with our Furrion ceiling assembly right here with our controls. Our first knob will go from cold to colder. Our other knob is going to have our fan option, which will be just the fan. It's not going to cool the air. And then we have our actual cool option. We kick into that, the compressor will kick in and cool the air. We do have heat optional on here. That is not going to come with your unit. If you want to upgrade to that heating element and install that in your unit, you would be able to utilize that. We do have a furnace on our unit. We'll show you how that operates when we get to that thermostat. Now, thing about this unit is we do have this open dump valve right here. We want to keep it open because this is an ducted unit, so no air can go anywhere else. We want to leave that open so that air can come out. We have these two tabs here. We pull it down and it has a filter in there we need to keep clean, make sure we're not restricting air to that unit. Also going to have a little storage under our bed as well. Just outside of our bedroom on the wall, we have our CO LP detector in here that's going to alarm you of any CO or LP gas that may be in our unit due to a leak. We want to make sure that if we hear that alarm go off, we go ahead and evacuate the unit. Little green light indicates that it is powered on. It is hardwired into our 12 volt system, so it's going to be on all the time. If that light's off, we need to investigate that. We can push that button, test the audible alarm. We want to do that regularly, if not every time we go camping, to make sure that it works. It does have an expiration date on it, either on the front or the back. We want to make sure that we change it out as well when that expiration comes around. You're also going to have a smoke detector in your unit powered by a 9 volt battery. We want to test the audible alarm on it, make sure that battery is powered up on a regular basis too. Have our sofa right here. If we pull on the bottom here and pull it out, it will add more sleeping space for us too. In our kitchen, just above our countertops here, we do have our TV entertainment center. Above it, you're going to see your coax hookup for your cable antenna. Now on that coax hookup, there's going to be a little button, and if you turn it off and on, it'll turn the little light off and on. Well, that little light means that you have antenna boost. Antenna boost will, whenever you're on antenna and scanning for those channels, you want that light on. The antenna boost will amplify that signal and help pick up more channels in your area. When we're hooked up to cable, we want to make sure that light is off so we don't scramble the channels coming in from the campground. Behind me, we have our 110 microwave, our hood range vent that we talked about outside. We need to have those tabs open and open that vent so it can actually ventilate out. And below it, we have our cooktop. Our Furrion cooktop has a glass topper to it. It needs to be down in travel. It can be down for more counter space. When we cook, we need to have it up. We have our propane on. We want to pick our designated burner, turn it to that flame icon, and then we hit our striker right here, and then we light our oven. Now once it lights, we're good to go. We turn it to high, low, whatever we want, and cook. We shut it off whenever it's done. You'll notice the little red ring around here that lights up. That's to indicate that gas is flowing out of that system, so it's especially good with kids running around to let you know that it's turned on. Flip a little switch right here, they all turn blue. It'll still turn red whenever you kick it on. Flip it down, it will light up our oven down there at the bottom. Now before we move to our oven, we'll talk about our propane for a second. It's very common when you store your unit, you turn your propane tanks off. Whenever you pull it out, you're going to end up with air in your system. This can also happen if we change our tanks out. We're going to end up with air in our system. Easy way to remediate that problem is we come over here and we just light our stove. Turn our tanks on, come over here, light it up. It's going to take a couple seconds. It's not going to light right away. So keep hitting that striker till our stovetop lights. Let it run for about 60 seconds. And we more than likely bled most, if not all, of that air out of our system. Want to do that before we operate things like our furnace or our water heater so you don't go into faults due to air in the system. This is the best way to go ahead and take care of that issue. Now for our oven, really simple to use. We come over to the right here. we turn it once again to that flame icon, but we need to keep pushing down on that knob so that pilot will keep emitting gas. We turn our striker until that pilot lights. Keep holding it down for another 15-20 seconds. Let it warm up that thermocouple, and then we can let off and turn to our temperature, and that burner tube should light up. If it doesn't, go back, light it up again, hold it down for a little bit longer, and give it another shot. That thermocouple might not have been warm enough in order for that tube to go ahead and light up. Last thing in our kitchen is going to be our fridge. Now this one is an Everchill. All of them are going to be 12-volt fridges. They're all going to have a little knob up at the top to go from cold to colder, and you're all going to have a freezer in them. Generally, they may or may not have a temperature control in that freezer as well. One thing they do not have is a drain tube. So that means whenever you go ahead and shut your unit down, it is going to defrost. That water is going to stay in the tray of that freezer or refrigerator due to condensation or ice melting, whatever the case may be. You need to open that fridge, air it out, dry all the water out of there before you store your unit. This reduces the risk for mold and mildew, and if there's standing water in there, it is going to leak out and damage your wood components around that fridge. Manufacturers aren't going to cover that type of repair. So make sure we're defrosting and maintaining our fridge properly. It is considered customer maintenance. We're also going to have that little travel latch right there. We flip it out, keep our doors from flying open while we're traveling down the road. Our middle AC, once again, another Furrion, sealing assembly controlled, just like our front AC. Make sure we're cleaning that filter out on a regular basis. Down to the right of our fridge, below all of our pantry area, we have our 110 breakers and our 12-volt fuses, all labeled so we know what they're going to. We can go ahead and identify easily what they operate in the event that we have a problem when it come here. Now this is the area I was talking about. We got our 12-volt fuses. We want to make sure nothing's blown. Our 110 outlets, make sure nothing's tripped. Now we're going to notice a little grill down here at the bottom. You may hear a fan running in there from time to time. This is our converter system. That fan is cooling that converter. Our converter changes 110 power to 12-volt power. Now this is only going to operate when we're plugged into our service outside for our 110 power, and that will actually be charging our battery while we are plugged in. Our dinette booth, we can remove the two poles at the bottom and set our table on these bumpers right here to add more sleeping space in there. We have our Suburban thermostat right here for our furnace. Let's take a closer look at that. Real quick, simple, easy operation on our thermostat. We have our indoor temperature right there. We go ahead, click that switch over to warmer. We're going to hear our fan and our system kick on. We want to shut it off or like a cooler, slide it to the left, want it off, all the way to the left till it clicks. You're also going to notice your furnace air is only going to come out of any side vents like that in your cabinetry or your floor vents down there at the bottom. We do have our double bunks in here, 110 USB outlets on each. We also have more storage right here. We can go ahead and lift that up. Easier access to get stuff, or if we have something a little taller, we can go ahead and prop that up. All right, here we are in the bathroom, pretty cut and dry, hot, cold faucets right there. Our shower head, however, does have an on-off valve on it. That is used when we are dry camping. If we are trying to conserve the amount of water we're using out of our fresh tank and putting into our gray tank system, we have to shut these faucets off, or we can go ahead and use that off on right here. That way we don't have to worry about trying to find that sweet spot on the hot-cold system again whenever we're taking a shower. That option is there if you want it. If you're under city water and you have a sewage hookup, you don't need to worry about it. We also are going to have a vent here. It's suggested to have that vent on when you take a shower to get the humidity out of here and reduce the risk for mold and mildew in that bathroom. Lastly, we have our toilet. Our toilet has a little foot pedal right here. We kick it down to flush it. Now our bowl can fill up with some water in here. If we barely depress that pedal and keep that valve closed, that bowl will begin to fill up with water. Now that's important. We're putting 4 things in our toilet here. Number 1, right, liquids. Number 2, solids. Number 3, we're putting our RV toilet paper only, which is degradable in our system, and our chemicals. Now let's go back to number 1. Number 1, hit that pedal, flush it away, it's just liquids. Number 2 is solids, right? We want to make sure we fill that bowl about half to 3/4 of the way so we have enough water to flush those solids down all the way into our black tank and we don't cause any clogs in our pipes. And number 3, that RV toilet paper, make sure it is RV toilet paper because it won't degrade properly. It'll clog up your pipes. And number 4, our chemicals are very important to go ahead and dispose of any waste and degrade it in that system so to flush out properly as well. In here we have our GFCI outlet. That is the main GFCI outlet. all of your outlets in your kitchen, outside, all that stuff, they're going to have a sticker that say GFCI protected outlet. So in the event that those aren't working, we want to come here in our bathroom and see if this system is tripped. We can go ahead and identify that by the little red light on there letting you know it's tripped. We hit that reset button and it will reset that system, kind of like a breaker. Now these outlets can trip due to them getting wet, or we plugged into too many griddles, coffee makers, so on and so forth into those outlets, and it's overamped the system. If it trips right away when you reset it, want to go check those outlets to make sure they're not wet, maybe unplug some of our appliances to see if maybe we've overamped the system, and go back and try to reset it again. In here we also have our Girard tankless water heater. We'll go over the information on that right now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the two types of temperature. We have our on off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.